Hey guys, welcome to another Aleroart podcast. I am Aleroart, and today I want to talk about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is like a form of like you don't think that you are capable of doing because I guess in that kind of way is like you feel like it's not what you're supposed to do, or you're being looked at that you aren't. And in that case, it's pretty much what's all in us that we feel like. I can I could certainly say for myself is I do get that sense of that, especially as a cartoonist, creating content outside of my medium of making my comic. Making a product that revolves around the comic, creating a book or a character that's outside of its realm. So, say example, me making my comic Element Factor, or say Alley Cat. Alley Cat's when you see him, he's like a two-dimensional drawing, and to be able to see him on an apparel, to see him 3D printed in a toy form, or say even on a wall, me connecting my character to see him in different other mediums of his brand kind of makes me feel like that's for another artist or creator to be doing, where you see someone make murals, they are just muralists. And if you're just making toys, then you're a toy designer. But as a creator brand of what Alley Cat is, and again, this is pretty much of me explaining, no right or wrong. I just wanted to tell and explain this is basically Alley Cat, seeing him in these forms that make me feel kind of not thinking that he should be. But the thing is that it happens. Having imposter syndrome really does get the best of creators in some form, where you're sharing your ideas and your content, and you always wonder is if somebody is going to buy into your bull of believing that you are not. And that actually gets a lot of the best of us of thinking that we can't, which we freeze up. So I can only say for myself, I do feel that at times, but I do say that the best way I can go through with making a product or doing a job is just do it. Just think about the next thing. Keep going, keep that ball rolling. Don't feel that you can't do that. You have to tell yourself, because pretty much it's yourself that does that. Making comics, learning how to do more like designing and having opinions of giving input of the writing is another that I go through. Usually in my early stages of doing cartooning I was taking assignments or collaborative of me writing, not me writing, but me more so drawing of what was given writing. So as I got older and got more into my craft of cartooning, I would find ideas that I had, rather it be a comedy or an action, just visually as a creator. And that's actually what makes me feel like, well, this is what a writer would do. But as a cartoonist, you are basically writing out what you see visually. And I never pretty much had that connection. So it is definitely one of those things that I got better at, but still have my days of thinking that this isn't what I do. I'm just going to stick to that. But the fact is that creating content, whether it be an idea of a plot, that's a thing that I get over of doing little by little. Creating my character, the Element Factor, which is a group of kids with these superpowers of different elements, was more of just like created out of a bag design that a lot of people wanted to know more about, and fighting the idea that I am the creator and wanting somebody else to write it just made more sense to say I will take the chance of my idea of it failing and being okay with that. And a lot of us I try to take more of my advice of just like, hey, just be cool with it. As long as you get the premise of it, just go with it. And sure, later on you can collaborate with other writers. And sometimes you even encounter people that can't write your story. So I felt that I needed to do this more. So yeah, I'm really glad I got to do that. I got to create Element Factor more than 4+ years ago as far as a story, but I always had the characters floating around in a design of an illustration, but creating its premise was more of trying to figure out how they fit in a comic book. So I was able to do 3 20+ page stories plus a coloring activity book, which would never expected, but I was able to do that. So when I get asked about being what is my title, I just say a cartoonist, because I tend to see being labeled as just a writer makes it kind of feel I'm not. But I know and tell myself is it's accepting. You could just say that. But for me, I always tell people I'm an artist writer, or I'm just a cartoonist, and that's a feeling that I get from Imposter Syndrome, and I laugh about it. But I have my days where I take my steps and tread back and forth of wondering, like, is this working? And I guess when I hear more writers and respect those guys, and as well as you other guys that are cartoonists, it's everybody all has a different format, and that's a thing that we all got to understand. There's no right way of doing things. You have to do your own. My background and how I create a story is I guess, and that would be for writers as well too, is I'm visual. So I could picture everything, and then afterwards I add words, and I'm certain that's a key process of making a story or a comic or novel. You break them up in sections, and I could be wrong on that, but that's just how I see it. Creating this crossover of Power Punch versus Element Factor with creator-writer Ellie Elginton meeting my characters was definitely an idea of more of imagining both teams like having a big old fight, but the idea came more clear. Suggestion was really cool to just make it more relay, and that's how the title, coming about that is it's just pretty much a superhero relay race of random sports, and it basically wrote itself of a 50-page story. I'm pretty sure I could have added more, but I was just really happy, and I felt in my heart that this was just enough. And me being approached about it being crowdfunded, I've always avoided the word writing. I just said, look, I drew it, and the story is edited by the awesome Ellie, and but I never said writing. I don't know. I think we all are creative, and I know everyone has a title. I just takes me a bit to say that I'm I write, and I think everybody has their own form of how we explain ourselves as this title. And even like doing stuff with working on Puerto Rican Strong, that was another idea of more storyboarding it out and then adding words later. So there's no title for that, and you're just doing what your instinct is. And my instinct is visually storyboarding out, but I could see the interaction, and very grateful to have Sharif of the right adding the words to it of the story, make it more rounder. So it made it really, really fun. So I wonder, do you guys feel the same way too in this world of how we view ourselves? And I guess when you look at other people, because you assume, but the thing is, at the end of the day, you don't know. And that's the thing of telling yourself, is letting yourself know that it's okay to label and call yourself that. And as long as you're true to it, me being a cartoonist, I'm always, even as a kid, I'm like, yeah, I'm a cartoonist. And I never had a problem telling people I wasn't an artist, but something about this imposter syndrome with writing or toy designing or giving input in like animation, why is it so difficult? Is it difficult? I don't know. How do you guys relate with stuff like that? Do you guys have something that you're a musician? Is it do you feel that same kind of way if you're at your job, if you're at an office and your title, and do you have that feeling too, and you just, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and just I'll get this done, because that does eat you up if you are stagnant and constantly thinking this is what other people are thinking of me, and you just find out later on that, hey, that's just pretty much what you believe and that's what you go through. And for myself, that's just the thing that I go through my head, especially in this stage of working on a book, especially the graphic novel. Is the final part is adding dialogue, and when I'm adding the dialogue, it's pretty much just keeping the rhythm of what you see comics are. You see writing, then you see the dialogue, then you see the artist adding the pencil inks, then colors, and then the editor jumps in. But in this case, it's the artwork is already done, it's adding the words, and then it's the editor jumping in. So when people assume and see stuff, you think that it's a conveyor belt of all these things, but in reality, usually it's you're just the artist doing the story. And just this was a crossover. I'm very excited to be working on book 2 of Power Punch. That's the graphic novel that I'm working on with the creator Ellie of of the graphic novels that we did the year before, and I'm just happy. So I think I feel that I needed to tell myself like, hey, I got a story to tell, and I think part of that is it's good to feel that way, and it's also a great feeling to have a support around you that people will tell you that you should do it. And I'm from that school too. I would like to see people try. I would like to see people, write something. I like to see people just make something that's out of the norm. And for me, my out of the norm is like I'm not visually telling myself that I wrote this. I'm just like, yeah, I drew this, but do you really want to know that I wrote this as well? I drew it, but yeah, I think this is just a part in my stages of being a writer. I hope that next time when I do this, I hope to double it. I hope I could add something more to the mix of next time, because as a person of creating I don't want to do the same thing. I want to do more. And then as I think part of me dealing with my imposter syndrome is telling myself that, you probably think people are thinking that this isn't going to be good. And regardless if it isn't, it's okay. I have that sense of being hard-headed and saying, well, at least I tried. At least I could do that. And I tell that to my students. I tell that to my family and friends. If you're making something, you do it. Who cares? Like, just make something. And at the end, you end up finding out that it wasn't that bad, or it was bad, but at least you tried. And that's what I always want to come across. And I find myself that I need to take more of that approach. So me doing this podcast today is also really funny, because I would never label myself as a podcaster. I'm just an artist that makes content, and I like to share. And I love to share information that, if it helps you down the line, where if you are creating art, that's awesome. But if you are, making something else, I hope this helps and it gets you through this too, because, we need to hear more stories of like how a person deals with creating. We all feel at some part that maybe, and there's always going to be someone better, but why not tell yourself that you can do this too? And I feel like that. I feel like that a lot. And I'll tell you this, and maybe it's like the artist cockiness of me. I love seeing artwork, but I feel like I have a story to tell. And I find it kind of weird that I deal with imposter syndrome, and I'm like that. I love seeing other people's artwork, but I feel like I could do the same thing, or I do it differently. So what is that? I've interacted with people that they let the imposter syndrome get the best of them, and as much as you could try to get them out, it's individually itself. So what if people think all of a sudden I'm an artist now? Well, cool. That's what you want to do. You want to be creating content. You want to be a musician. You want to add stuff. It goes back to like that self-thinking that somebody's going to tell you no. And the thing is that it's not. It's yourself. So I know a lot of this plays on social media, that you're inspired by something, you want to try it, and you think that person's going to come and say you're taking what I did. And the reality is like, hey, it's open. Everybody should feel like they should at least try. And I know a lot of us out there that have great ideas. Let the best of us tell us that it's not ready and it's not good. because it's not perfect. And I like to tell myself and yell and say, hey, you know what? This is the best it's going to be. Make sure the next time you're going to up it. And that's what I felt last year. And I'm already thinking about what I'm going to be doing for the following year. And, you know, you would think that this imposter syndrome will disappear, but you're always going to have it. You're always going to have it in a spot of being in front of a crowd. They're looking at you for leadership or guidance, and you have to just say you're going to do your best. And that's what I go about. And when I teach classes and I do these workshops, I do get that sense of like, what if this isn't right? But you end up finding out that, you know, you can make people turn their heads and be excited about stuff. Me teaching middle school arts, and though it's about artwork, it's about, I try to give them that cheerleading confidence. And we do get self-doubt and our upbringings, and you hear 9 no's before you hear yeah. I'm always that one that tells you, yeah, do it. What's the worst that could happen if you didn't make that picture? You can just say the next time you're going to do better and try something different. Using my work in my storytelling in workshops, it does definitely help the class go by quicker, and it also gives more of a understanding in my art to tell the ABCs of storytelling, where my mascot is Alley Cat. Alley Cat helps out. So, you know, hey, maybe you have a character that does that. And again, there's no right way of doing stuff, but as dealing with this imposter syndrome, you have to find something that gets you through that. And for me, myself, my attitude is like, all right, cool. What's my next thing? What's going to be the next thing? What am I going to create? What am I going to do? And you have to think that instead of keeping one outlet. So, you know, making graphic novels, and it's comic, and it's all ages. It's cool, and having Alley Cat as my brand mascot that helps with teaching and creating original art to apparel to 3D toys to animation and video games. It's another. So I guess what I walk away from is telling you is that you got to keep busy. You got to make a lot of things. You got to keep consistent before that one self-doubt of yourself tells you you can't, because you might not hear it outside. And if you do, you got to get those people around you away. And you have to, unfortunately, sometimes it is close people. Might be a family member, might be a close friend. You have to limit your time with that person. You can't change their mind. You have to do it for yourself. But if it's coming directly from yourself, you have to definitely tell yourself that the next thing is going to be better, but I'm going to finish this. Get it done. And I was really happy that I got to do this podcast about imposter syndrome. There's like it's a great feeling, because even doing this podcast right now, you get that sense of like there's so many talented podcasters out there with the awesome equipment and the knowledge of being able to talk in front of people. That's cool. I mean, I talk in front of people all the time, but when you're doing these podcasts yourself, and it's cool when you have a partner, it's great. But, you know, I kind of want the route of more of explaining stuff. So I could take and I can leave not needing to have somebody there. So this is new to me and it's exciting. So I'm excited to be able to say, yeah, I do this kind of stuff because it reflects what I do with my artwork. And as far as it pertaining to the podcast with my work and Imposter Syndrome is basically saying, like, yeah, I don't think I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a radio guy. I'm not a vocal person. And I accept that, hey, as I need to just want to add more to my brand. And this brand is a person that, creates, and rather it be visually or vocal, podcasting was in my to-do list. So I'm really, really really happy to say this. I know my words stumble a lot, but creating content is, just who I am. And I'm really glad to add this to that because, again, you don't want to just be, like I mentioned before with Aleroart, or, using Aleroart as the example. He was just a 2D design. Now he's 3D. Now he's animated. Now people are looking at that. And for myself, I got to tell myself that if I'm going to be this person, this is what I am that I add to it. And we tend to believe that we're not. And I think a lot of it is we always put people in these higher brackets believing that they are all knowing. And the reality is, as years go by, you learn that person or those people aren't. And they're trying to figure this out as you go along too. Whether you're creating a book, whether you're creating content, whether you're coding, it's no one wants to. I feel like if we talked more about our errors, I don't think the word imposter syndrome would exist. Maybe, just saying. But as a person in my field, I would feel more comfortable to hear that people deal with errors and mistakes, and we would, we wouldn't have this self doubt that runs through our bodies of thinking that we aren't able to. So that's how I go through it. I just do what I can and find out later on, like, yeah, that stuff was all in your head, and you have to keep being consistent. And then in this day and age, in being competitive, in creating, you have to have that extra octopus leg to keep going, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck on one thing, and then you're just going to let your self-doubt make the best of you. And I think a lot of people who look at creators assume the grass is always greener, and I tell people, I'm like, yeah, that's what you think, but we all do our own way. So one is make what works for you, and if it doesn't work, try something different. If writing isn't your thing, then just go with it. But I think back to it being like feeling that way. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer of that, but I'm getting better at that, and I'm more accepting of it. And I know that there's people that title themselves as an artist or as a writer, and you gotta applaud them regardless of them being the greatest storyteller out there. You just gotta just say, hey, that person does it, and they go with it. And for your self-doubting self, you just got to move on with it. I can't say it anymore. And feeling, it's just, you have to feel that way. You have to just go with it. And maybe you need to juggle a couple. I think people that have multiple projects going on, they don't really have that. And if you do, that, more power to you, because you guys get it out there. And I think for myself, that's why I have to do that. But I tend to see that being a writer, artist, writer, cartoonist, I tend to see myself in two different versions, dueling back and forth with swords. And you just got to learn that that's who you are. You're just a creator. You're just making stuff. And at the end of the day, it's nobody else. It's what's inside you. And you got to tell that person inside you that, hey, let's just go with it. Right. So, I don't know. I think that was one of the things that I just wanted to talk about for today. I wanted to make this podcast about more so of self thinking, which is when we're doing these projects, we do have that sense of imposter syndrome, because you're viewed as, and the thing is, in your brain, you're viewed as something else. So I know I'll be doing more explaining about dealing with imposter syndrome. Like I said, my thing is I try to keep focused on creating other content. And if I find myself thinking about it, that I'm not that person, I'll take a break and I'll try to work on something. I'll do a sketch. I'll read something. I'll listen to another podcast and just be inspired. And I feel like that's what we should kind of do, in the sense of like not letting it eat you up, because it is a thing that we tend to do, where we let the best of us. And the worst thing to ever see is a person not create. And I think that's why we're here on this earth. We have to be making content. So I don't know. Again, to be able to make this, I was really, really happy. My shoulders unhinged a bit more from my anxiety of thinking about what a person should be labeled as, and you shouldn't be. You should be who you are, what you create. And and especially if you're setting examples, you want to be able to show people that you can do this too, and you're not the person that you're not the person that's to stop you, or it's yourself is the person that makes you feel that way. But as a person outside, you just tend to see that they're a fan of you, or they want to hear your story. So you just got to do it for yourself of making it. And if there's people that you feel like that they're telling you no, you got to get away from them. And we hold these people in high regards. And the people that are around you that believe in you, those are the ones you should really focus more on. I'd just like to end that on that note. So I want to do more of these, talking more about like self thinkings of how we create and how we deal with stuff. If you guys have questions and comments, please leave feedback. I love to hear a response. This is just something that's just a new thing that I want to do and create. So I want to end that by just saying, hey, I'm Aleroart. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as Aleroart. My website is aleroart.com. My Patreon is Patreon Alleycat. Mumbled that one. It's Patreon Aleroart. And I'm just really happy to be creating content and not letting the best of me freeze up and say I can't. So hope you guys have a good one. I'll be creating more content, more thoughts, more views on things. So you guys have a good one. Peace out and happy holidays.